I shouldn't have been there that late. But she'd left the door unlocked, and something about that felt like permission. The house was quiet, except for the faint hum of a ceiling fan and the sound of her voice, soft and slow, somewhere down the hall. She was talking on the phone, half laughing, half distracted. It was the kind of laugh that made everything else in the room fall still. When she turned and saw me, her words stopped mid-sentence. The phone call ended without a goodbye. "You're early," she said. Her tone wasn't annoyed, just surprised, maybe a little unsure what to do with the space between us. I said I didn't mind waiting. She looked different that evening. Barefoot. Hair loosely tied, a few strands falling near her face. There was a faint shimmer of perfume in the air, something floral, warm, the kind that stays longer than intended. She wasn't dressed for company, and that made it worse somehow. Or better. I couldn't decide. I sat on the edge of the sofa, pretending to check my phone, pretending not to notice the sound of her walking around the kitchen, the soft rhythm of her steps against the tiled floor. She poured herself a glass of water, then another for me, though I hadn't asked. When she handed it over, her fingers brushed mine, light, almost accidental. Except it didn't feel accidental. "You shouldn't sneak up on people like that," she said, with a small, crooked smile. "I knocked," I said. "You didn't hear." "I did," she replied, after a pause. "I just didn't answer." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavier, the kind that makes every movement deliberate. The clink of the glass. The sound of her breathing. The way she leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me as if trying to decide what I really wanted from being there. I didn't know how to tell her that this was enough, the nearness, the unspoken rhythm between her restraint and my hesitation. She spoke again, quieter this time. "You always look like you're about to say something, but you never do." I smiled, but not confidently. "Maybe I don't trust myself to say the right thing." "And what's the wrong thing?" "I'm not sure," I said, and meant it. She took a step closer. Just one. Close enough for me to catch the warmth of her skin, the scent of her hair, that faint mix of jasmine, and something I could never name. Her gaze lingered on me longer than it should have. "I'm too old for guessing games," she said, voice low, almost teasing but not quite. "Then don't make it one," I replied, and immediately regretted how steady that sounded. Her expression shifted, not shocked, just aware. She looked away, brushing her hair back, her breathing a little uneven now. "Don't," she said softly. "Don't say things you can't take back." I wasn't planning to. For a second, either of us moved. The clock ticked in the background, too loud for such a small room. She reached for her glass, but her hand stopped midair. Then she turned slowly, her eyes searching mine for something she didn't want to find. And then she said it calmly. "You heard nothing tonight." Her voice carried the kind of authority that didn't need to be raised. Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. She froze. The hallway light spilled in from behind her, cutting her figure into shadow and gold. For a heartbeat, she looked like someone caught between two choices, and both were wrong. Her hand brushed mine again, quick this time, not tender but urgent. "Don't move," she whispered. Then she turned toward the door, and I stayed exactly where I was, listening to her footsteps fade into something I wasn't supposed to witness. The knock at the door had been brief, a neighbor, asking something trivial. But the sound of her voice on the other side, calm and collected, didn't match the flicker in her eyes when she came back. She closed the door softly, pressing her palm against it for a moment longer than needed. When she turned toward me again, the careful distance was back in her posture. "You should probably go," she said. "It's late." I didn't move. "You don't want me here?" Her mouth curved slightly. "That's not the question, is it?" She sat across from me, curling one leg beneath her, the light from the lamp painting her skin in amber. I'd seen her like this before, years ago, when she used to help my mother with her work, when I'd still been the kid hovering near the doorway, pretending to read while listening to their conversations. Back then, she'd seemed unreachable, composed, always dressed neatly, her laughter too knowing for me to understand. I never imagined I'd be sitting here years later, watching the same woman in her living room, barefoot, eyes tired in a way I didn't remember. She was single now. Divorced for 3 years. The ring had been gone long before that. And well, I'd never been very good at leaving things alone once I noticed them. "Why did you really come tonight?" she asked. I hesitated. "You said you needed help with the computer." "That was 3 days ago." She said it like she was challenging me to tell the truth, and the truth was simple. I missed her voice. The way she looked when she was trying not to look at me. But instead I said, "I guess I didn't want to wait for another excuse." Her breath caught, barely noticeable. She turned her face away, hiding something behind a quiet, practiced smile. "You're too young to talk like that," she murmured. "Too young," I repeated. "Or too honest?" That earned me a small laugh, not because it was funny, but because it startled her. She stood up and walked past me toward the shelf, pretending to adjust something that didn't need fixing. When she leaned forward, the faint scent of her perfume returned, jasmine again, faint and warm, carrying the same ache I'd felt that first night I met her. I stood too, stepping closer. Not enough to touch, just enough for her to feel it, the nearness, the unspoken pull either of us had words for. "Don't," she whispered without turning. "I'm not doing anything. That's the problem." She turned then, finally facing me. For a heartbeat we were too close. Her hand brushed against my chest as she stepped back, but it didn't quite land. She froze there, the air between us thick, her eyes searching mine like she was trying to find the right distance again. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said softly. "Then stop standing where I can't look away." Her breath trembled, a tiny, almost invisible reaction. Then she smiled, tired and beautiful, like someone who'd been waiting too long for something she wasn't allowed to want. When I moved to leave, she caught my sleeve, not to stop me, but just to feel it, to prove to herself she still could. It was the smallest touch, gone in a second. But when I looked back, she was still watching me, eyes half guarded, half giving. It started raining the next evening, the kind of soft, steady rain that made everything sound closer than it was. She called, asking if I still had the USB from the project we'd been working on. I knew she could have texted. She knew it too. When I arrived, the house smelled faintly of coffee and rain-damp curtains. Her hair was tied up this time, loose strands framing her face. She wore something simple, a gray sweater, sleeves rolled past her wrists, but the sight of her still made something inside me pull tight. "You came fast," she said, almost teasing, though her voice was quieter than usual. "You sounded like you needed it." "I didn't," she admitted. She hesitated, brushing her hair back. "Didn't want to work alone tonight." We sat close, staring at the screen, but neither of us was really looking at it. My shoulder brushed hers once, twice. The third time, she didn't move away. "People would talk," she said suddenly, still staring straight ahead. "People always talk," I said. She smiled, not at me, but at the thought. "They'd say I should know better. That I'm too old," I finished for her. Her gaze met mine then. "Too foolish," she corrected. The silence that followed was thin and electric. I could hear the soft rain against the window, the rhythm of her breathing. My hand rested on the table, hers just inches away. She looked down at them both, then up again, eyes darker now, unsure. "Don't," she said, though she didn't move her hand. "I wasn't going to," I lied. She laughed once, a short, breathless sound, then bit her lip, realizing how close we were leaning toward each other. Her knee brushed mine under the table, and neither of us pulled back. That was when the knock came, sharp, unexpected, real. Her body tensed immediately. "Wait, don't move," she whispered, standing so fast her chair scraped the floor. I could hear voices outside, a friend, maybe, or a neighbor. She opened the door only a little, blocking the view inside. Her tone was casual, practiced, the voice of someone who's had years of experience hiding what she doesn't want found. I sat there, heart pounding, staring at the half-empty mugs, the faint warmth still lingering on the air where she'd been. When the door finally closed again, she leaned against it, eyes closed. "He just wanted to drop something off," she murmured, more to herself than to me. Then she looked at me, not angry, but shaken. "This is stupid," she said softly. "You being here, me not stopping it." "Then stop it." She stepped toward me. One step. Then another. Until there was no space left to hide behind words. Her hand reached for the back of my neck, paused, then fell away before it landed. "I can't," she whispered. "I know." For a moment, it didn't matter who we were or what it meant. We were just two people who'd run out of excuses, breathing the same uncertain air. Her lips parted, almost. Mine did too. And then, instead of closing the distance, she pressed her forehead against mine, a soft, trembling contact that said everything we couldn't. Outside, the rain hit harder. Inside, neither of us moved. The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. It turned everything gray, the sky, the streets, the window panes. Her house looked smaller under the clouds, the light inside soft and amber, like a secret. I told myself I was just returning her notebook. But the moment she opened the door, barefoot, sweater hanging loose on one shoulder, I knew I wasn't there for that. "You'll catch a cold," she murmured, reaching for the towel near the door. She pressed it into my hands but didn't step back. For a second, I thought she might actually touch me. Instead, she turned away, to the kitchen, to safety. The kettle whistled. She moved with slow precision, pouring water, stirring tea, every motion a kind of avoidance. "You didn't answer my messages," I said. "I didn't know what to say." "You could have said something," she sighed. "I was trying to make this easier." "For who?" Her silence answered before she could. I stepped closer, resting my hand on the counter beside her. "You think pretending it didn't happen will make it disappear?" She turned to face me then, really face me. The exhaustion in her eyes wasn't just from sleeplessness, it was from holding herself together too long. "I'm not pretending," she said softly. "I'm trying to protect what's left of my self-control." I almost smiled. "Then you're failing." Her breath caught. She leaned back against the counter, fingers gripping the edge. "You shouldn't talk to me like that." "Then stop looking at me like you want me to." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her hand lifted slightly, brushing her hair behind her ear, though it didn't need fixing. The gesture was nervous, vulnerable, real. I stepped in, close enough that my chest almost brushed hers. Her perfume was faint now, mixed with the scent of rain and tea leaves. "I can't keep pretending this doesn't matter," I said, my voice low. "You think I don't feel it?" she whispered back. "That I don't notice every time you—" She stopped herself. "Every time I what?" I asked. Her eyes flicked toward my mouth, just once, before she looked away. The air was too still. The only sound was the soft drip from the window. I reached up, slow enough for her to stop me, and brushed a strand of damp hair from her face. She didn't move. Her breathing changed, shallow, uneven. "You should go," she whispered. "Tell me to," I said. She opened her mouth, but the words didn't come. Instead, she stepped forward, her hand landing against my chest, not pushing, not pulling, just there. Her forehead rested against me, her voice trembling. "This isn't supposed to happen." "Then why are you still here?" Her fingers tightened on my shirt. She looked up, eyes raw and undecided. "Because," she said, breath barely touching my lips, "I stopped knowing what's right the moment you walked in." And just as the distance vanished, a heartbeat from crossing the line completely, the sound of her phone shattered the moment. The name on the screen glowed in the dark, his. She froze. He, whoever he was, called again. The tension between us broke, but the electricity didn't fade. It hung there, in the space where a kiss should have been, daring us both to choose what came next. She didn't answer the phone, just stared at it until the screen went dark. The silence afterward felt louder than the ring itself. I waited. Her hand was still trembling when she set it down. "You should go," she said finally, her voice steadier than her hands. But she didn't move away. "Who was it?" I asked. She hesitated, a pause that stretched too long to mean nothing. "My ex-husband," she said. Then, after a beat, "He still has the keys." The words landed like something heavy dropped between us. "Does he come here often?" I asked. "Not really," she exhaled slowly. "But he thinks he can." She leaned against the counter again, eyes lowered. "He doesn't know about you." I almost laughed, quiet, bitter. "There's nothing to know, right?" Her eyes flicked up at me, sharp, wounded. "Don't do that." I took a step toward her. "You keep saying there's nothing here. But you can't even look at me when you say it." She didn't respond. Her jaw tightened. Her fingers gripped the counter again, knuckles pale. "Why does he still have the keys?" I asked, softer this time. She looked away. "Because I never changed the locks." That truth sat there, naked and small, not about the man, not really, but about what she hadn't let herself let go of. I nodded slowly. "So you're still holding on to something that isn't here anymore?" Her eyes met mine again, and this time they didn't turn away. "And what am I doing with you, then?" I didn't answer. I just moved closer, until her breath brushed against my throat. She swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're not supposed to mean anything. Then why does it feel like I do?" The tension cracked like lightning. She turned suddenly, walking toward the window, arms crossed tight over her chest. "I heard what you told your friend last week," she said quietly. I froze. "What?" She turned halfway, not fully facing me. "At the cafe. You didn't see me. You told him you liked someone, older, unavailable. You said it wasn't going anywhere." I blinked. "You heard that?" She nodded once. "And I believed you." I thought maybe that's what I wanted, for it not to go anywhere. She took a slow breath. "But now I don't know if I want that anymore." Her voice cracked on the last word. She pressed her hand to her temple, shaking her head. "This is insane." Don't say it." I cut in. She looked up. "You're too young. And you're too scared." For a moment, the air between us changed again, heavier, darker. I stepped closer, slow, deliberate, until she backed against the window. My hand brushed hers. She didn't pull away this time. Her breath shivered out. "If he finds out, I don't care," I said. "Do you?" She didn't answer, not with words. Just the smallest nod, enough to destroy whatever distance we had left. Her hand rose, almost touching my face, stopping a whisper away from it. "You have no idea what this will do to me," she said. "Then don't let it happen." I already did. And with that, she stepped closer, not a kiss, not yet, but close enough for her heartbeat to echo against mine. Outside, headlights flashed across the curtains, someone pulling into the driveway. She turned toward the light, her face strained. "He's here." Headlights cut across the living room wall, sharp and white. She froze, one hand still on my chest. Her breath came shallow and fast, eyes flicking toward the door like she'd been caught already. The car engine died. Silence. Then the sound of a door opening outside. "Go," she whispered, but her hand didn't move. I didn't move either. "If I leave now, it'll look worse." "It already looks worse," she said. Her voice trembled on the edge of fear, and something else, too. We both stood there, caught between the sound of footsteps on the porch and the weight of everything we hadn't said. The knock came. Slow. Heavy. Familiar. Her gaze locked on mine. "Please," she said, softer now. "Just stay quiet." She stepped away, adjusting her sweater, running her fingers through her hair, that small, practiced calm she wore like armor. Then she opened the door. Her ex stood there. I didn't need an introduction to know who he was. The kind of man who filled a space without speaking, carrying the history she never told me about. He glanced past her shoulder once, and for a second, I thought he saw me. You left this, he said, holding up a set of keys. Her voice was calm. You could have just texted. He shrugged. Didn't think you'd answer? I don't owe you that anymore. There was a pause, a long, bitter one. Then he stepped closer. You've got someone here, don't you? Her silence gave him his answer. I should go, I murmured under my breath. But she turned slightly, eyes flashing toward me, not anger, not fear, just decision. No, she said. Then to her ex. You need to leave. He stared at her, disbelief tightening his face. So it's true. She didn't deny it. Just waited. Eventually he left, the door shutting harder than it needed to. The sound echoed through the room. She stood there, still facing the door, shoulders trembling. You shouldn't have stayed, she said, voice breaking now. He'll tell people. I don't care. You should. She turned to me, tears bright at the corners of her eyes. You don't understand what this costs me. I stepped closer, slowly, carefully, until I was close enough to smell the rain still clinging to her hair. Then tell me to leave, I said. She didn't. My hand found hers, hesitant, waiting for her to pull away. She didn't do that either. You make everything complicated, she whispered. I thought maybe you needed complicated. Her lips trembled, a half smile, half tear expression that looked more like surrender than anything else. You think this ends well? She asked. I think it ends honestly. She looked at me for a long moment, then stepped forward until our foreheads touched again, the same way she had before, only this time neither of us looked away. Her breath shivered against my cheek. This is the last time, she whispered. I know. And then, without hesitation, she kissed me, soft, unsteady, real. Not a promise, not a victory, just truth. When we finally broke apart, the quiet that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was clear. She touched my face once, a gentle finality in her eyes. Now you know, she said. And I did. We both did. Morning came quietly, the kind that drifts in without asking, filling every corner with soft light and the faint scent of rain still clinging to the air. Her house looked different in daylight. Less like a secret, more like a place that could finally breathe. She stood by the window, coffee in hand, hair still damp, sweater falling off one shoulder again. Her eyes followed the street outside, but I knew she wasn't really looking at anything. Neither of us had said much since last night. Words didn't seem to fit anymore. Everything important had already been spoken in silence. You didn't have to stay, she said softly. I didn't know how to leave, I replied. She turned then, a tired smile playing at the edges of her mouth. You make that sound romantic. Maybe it is, I said, half smiling back. She set her cup down and sat beside me on the couch. For a long moment we didn't touch, just sat close enough that our shoulders brushed every now and then. I thought it would feel wrong, she said. But it doesn't. It doesn't, I agreed. Her gaze flicked toward me, searching for something honest. It still scares me, she whispered. I know, I said. It scares me too. And that was the truth. It wasn't a storybook ending, not the kind with perfect timing or neat answers. It was two people sitting in the aftermath of everything they'd almost lost, finally unafraid to feel it. She reached for my hand then, slowly, as if testing the idea of it. When her fingers laced through mine, something in both of us softened. This doesn't fix everything, she said quietly. It doesn't have to, I said. It just has to be real. She laughed under her breath, shaking her head. You say things like that and make it sound easy. It isn't, I said. But maybe that's why it matters. The light shifted. A beam of sunlight caught her hair, and for the first time, she looked peaceful, like the storm had finally passed. Do you regret it? I asked. She looked at me for a long moment before answering. No, she said finally. I regret waiting this long. Her thumb traced the back of my hand, a small, tender motion that said more than any confession could. I leaned closer, pressing a soft kiss against her forehead. She closed her eyes, exhaling slowly, as if she'd been holding her breath for years. I don't know where this goes, she murmured. Then we'll find out, I said. She smiled, not the guarded kind she used to give, but a real one, quiet and warm. Outside, the sky was clearing. The rain had stopped completely. She rested her head on my shoulder, fingers still entwined with mine. Neither of us spoke again. We didn't need to. Whatever we were, whatever came next, felt real enough to stay. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Speech Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?